They want you to hate abstract art so they can seem smarter. So before we even answer that question, talk about that, let's do some definition of terms. Somehow on the internet, there is some belief that abstraction and non-representational are opposites. They're not. So let's start with abstraction. Abstraction, realism is easy, right? It's the thing you see. You are looking at a realistic image of me on this screen. So that's on this side. Abstraction's on this side, and it's like a sliding scale. Something can be more realistic or something can be more abstract. And so something like Renaissance art, that's pretty realistic. You would often call it naturalism, right? So it's over here on that sliding scale. Impressionism is actually closer to abstraction. It looks like a building, but it's all sorts of, brushstrokes, crazy brushstrokes to get to look like that cathedral that Monet made. So then you have abstraction. Abstraction means that it is as far from realism as possible. So if you saw lots of boxes and lines, that would be abstract. However, that artwork by Mondrian that's abstract is also representational. And this is where I think somebody has there's been some wires crossed. Something that doesn't look like something can still represent it. And Mondrian's a great example. He was representing things with abstract imagery. I think the wire crossing also is the idea that I can see a square. It is representational. The funny thing about representational is it isn't that it looks realistic. It's that it represents something, and the artist wanted to say that thing, like Mondrian, the city. He wanted to show you that thing. He wanted to take it to its essential forms. So it is representational. It is just abstract. On the opposite of that scale is non-representational. And so non-representational and abstract, something that's non-representational and abstract would be something like Jackson Pollock. He had nothing. He was just doing movement. He was just doing action. It was just what you saw on the surface. So that's over here, non-representational and abstract. So the thing is, you could have a photograph that is trying to trick you, and it is all like a photogram. It could just be shapes and colors and shapes and colors. That could be abstract and non-representational, even though it used real things like scissors, let's say, but it did not want to represent anything. And I think that the thing that happens is we can see abstraction, but we cannot see if it's representational. Because if you don't know what the artist is implying, what the artist wants to tell you, you cannot say that this is representational or not. Which goes back to the beginning of this video. So one of the big things that's very hard about the art world is that sometimes there's a lot of art, much of the history of art, not all of the history of art, but much of the history of art is representational. And so we perceive that we understand the meaning. A tree, back to that tree, right? It looks like a tree. They were making a tree. However, a lot of times that tree was meant to mean something else. So a tree could be the tree of Jesse, which is a Christian image. A tree could be, in William Blake, part of some sort of personal mythology. A tree could mean that it has some sort of personal meaning about that person's feelings about trees, and we will never know. There's a lot of photographers, for example, who do trees. We don't know what they're trying to say, but they're trying to say something. And I think that what happens is when there is something represented, you perceive you can make meaning. You perceive you can make value judgments on it because you are being tricked by what you are seeing. You're thinking, I know what this means. And I think a classic example of this is actually Chuck Close. Chuck Close is doing something that's very realistic, but he wants it to be non-representational. So this is a face. It's even the face of a person who is known, an artist, Paul Cadmus. But he has explicitly said it's to mean nothing. They are to have no meaning. And so if you think, like, I hate abstract art, you should hate this. But, and this is where the wrinkle really comes in, you don't, right? Because you think, okay, he had so much skill. Now, Chuck Close himself would say what he did was he took a photograph, he gridded it, and he literally just copied what's in there. And he followed a lot of very clear rules about representation and shadows and light. And, you know, he learned how to do this. It was basically a system. He followed the system. His talent wasn't being able to make realistic paintings. His talent was doing something no one else had done, which is to take realism and make it non-representational. Which goes back to why abstraction feels very hard for people. It's often so hard to know what they're thinking, and then you have no tools and you have no scaffolding. And so it makes you feel stupid. It makes you feel angry. Not to mention, you perceive that somebody paid a lot of money. This artist made a lot of money because of it. Now, in actuality, the artist almost never made the money. The art world made the money. And I think that part of the reason the art world really loved drip paintings and abstraction is because in the 50s and 60s, when society was more and more going to college, more and more people were leaving their classes, their original class, jumping into new classes, it made them feel special, right? Because you are railing against this. And they're like, look, it only proves I'm smarter. And so that's why you should not, if you really, really want to rail against the art world, the best thing to do is say, I understand it and I dislike it. That's a much more valid thing than saying it's stupid. Because it makes you sound stupid, and it shows that you feel stupid about it. So how can you not feel stupid and at least make a good value judgment? So here are some tools to do that. One of them is, remember that the thing you're seeing is the end of a long process, not the beginning. So first thing is, most people think abstraction is super easy, right? He just threw that paint. Studies have indicated that Jackson Pollock's drip paintings are very close to perfect fractals, that he has created an inner structure to them. And so there's actually a lot of visual complexity, but that is actually, like if you believe in the golden ratio and all of those kinds of things, this would actually conform to that. So what he has done is perfected the ability to make something that looks disordered feel ordered. And it is not luck. And you could try, and there have been studies where they try kids doing drip paintings and then a Jackson Pollock, and people like the Jackson Pollock more. So a lot of times when you say a kid could do it, what you sound like you're saying is, I can't tell why that's better. Which is, I don't think what you mean. And the way to do it is to look at a lot of it. So that's the first thing. To know that it is not chance. The second thing is to know that, and I think a lot of people feel better when they think not just any old schmo could do that. And I would say that most of the people who are successful in abstraction are trained artists. They are really good at understanding visual culture, and they understand how to make a composition that's visually pleasing for a lot of people. So that's the second thing. I think the third thing is to know is that it is okay to have taste. And this is like the most important thing, I think. So if you just say, I hate all drip paintings, I hate all abstraction because it's stupid. Instead, you should look at it and find some you like. There are some you will like. If you actually allow yourself to feel like you could like it, you will like some of them. By liking some of them, then you have nuance. And then you can say, that one is ugly, rather than that one is stupid. And it makes it clear that you understand it. And with that nuance, being able to see something that you like visually, you will be able to say, I just think most of the drip paintings are crap, which is what you should be saying. So the final thing you have to know is that a lot of what you see on TikTok, those drip paintings, they are crap. So instead of saying it's stupid, it's money laundering, all of those kinds of things, I think that what you want is to be able to look at these things and be able to make meaning of it. You want to say, okay, this one is crap, this one is good, that's stupid, just means that you don't get it. But if you could actually say, and I would say, the vast majority of drip painting and abstraction done is not good. That is the honest to God truth. I look at abstraction on Instagram, on TikTok, I look at it all the time. The vast, vast majority of it is not good. But the vast majority of it's not getting sold either. There's some sort of internet myth that like people are making these drip paintings and selling them for millions. You know what they're actually selling? Your anger. Your belief that it's awful pushes more views on social media. They're not selling like gangbusters in galleries. That kind of stuff is passé largely. That sort of drip painting and, you know, the splatter paintings have really gone out of favor in the art world. They've moved on. And I think that what has happened is that they have switched to other kinds of abstraction. Because what the art world wants is to always be the cool kids. They want to decide what is of taste. And I think the thing that most general people should do is be able to say to themselves, I understand it and I don't like it. Which is a very different thing than just saying it's stupid and it's money laundering. It means that you can connect to that. And you can make meaning of it. And you also can give yourself a chance to like some of it. Because you might find if you took away the idea of money and cost, that some of it would be pleasing. Like if you can accept that most of the drip paintings you see on the internet actually didn't go for millions and most of it is not good, you will find something you like and that was not what you would perceive as a waste of money. You would find one that's good. There are some that are good. There are some you could like. And I think that's what you want to do. You want to get yourself to the position where you could like some of it. Why? Because one, then you can, say to those rich people that you might dislike for, being jerks, an art establishment, you can say to them, you know what? Your taste isn't that good. I can see that this is derivative of Jackson Pollock, let's say, because a lot of the stuff on the internet is derivative of Jackson Pollock, who himself was derivative of Janet Sobel. Neither here nor there. Another video. But that's one thing. So thumbing your nose at people can be good. But the second thing is, one of the biggest reasons abstraction exists is because there are a lot of things in our humanity that we cannot represent easily. And those are things like feelings, anxiety, stress, joy. You can try to represent it, joy, for example, with images of people smiling, but the feeling of joy is not easy to represent. And so much of abstraction is about discomfort, emotionality, pervasive fear, all of these big, big ideas. And so if you can get past all of that crap and you start looking at it and you start reading about these artists, not all of them, certainly, but some of them are really trying to get at community good. And you can access feelings that you might not know you had or that you could never connect to. And it gives you this new way to feel differently, to think about your feelings differently. But you cannot get to there until you go through all those things I said, until you can kind of be okay with some of it. But if you can, think of how empowering it would be to be able to understand it. One, to be able to tell them they don't know what they're talking about. You can tell that that's derivative. Or two, be able to say, I never could understand fear and loneliness or say it, but this thing really gets at what I'm feeling. So, in the end, abstraction is absolutely a scam, but not all of it. And the only way you're going to understand what is a scam and what isn't is to get to know it better.